What's going on, guys? Bingo here. I'm with the Duel Factory for episode 39 of X2 Drop, our Yu-Gi-Oh podcast we do, talking about anything and whatever we feel like in the trading card game. This week, we kind of came up with this topic: is Yu-Gi-Oh broken, and if so, can it be fixed by a ban list? Do we need a ban list? How would it impact, and how go about structure one because of the way the format is right now? I was scrolling through YouTube and I saw a video from House of Champs, and it was honestly more or less the same subject, but that was after we came up with this, so I'm not changing it. But the current format would be extremely difficult to fix with one ban list, and that's because the power level of the current decks, as well as the products that have been released the past few months, just being subpar as far as archetypes go. And it's put us in this really weird spot for the Yu-Gi-Oh trading card game that we're not used to. And that's the power level of the decks is relatively low compared to previous formats. And if we just get rid of the best decks, then the power level of the decks right below them, they're not that far off. So it's this weird balance, right? So what do you think, Joe?
When I first think of it, I think Yu-Gi-Oh's gone to the point where you don't have like your traditional decks that like they go back and forth turn by turn by turn. I think it's more of a lot of the decks, even like the slower decks, are more combo centric. And I think that's where one of the big problems is, because if you see it's mainly in the design of the deck of today's decks anyway, where they're so fast paced and whatnot, and all of them can do these 2-3 card combos. Even like you were saying, even the decks that aren't quite up to snuff to what the current meta is, they all kind of like rely around that. Like I was playing against Aaron yesterday, who was playing MathMech, and they were doing 2 or 3 card combos that ended on sick boards. Not sick boards, but sick plays and stuff like that. And I think Yu-Gi-Oh's gotten to the point that even if we do a major ban list, like after Dragon Roll format, where it kind of did like a hard reset to the game, I'm not 100% sure that's possible given what we've had released in our current formats currently.
Yeah, so the way the Yu-Gi-Oh game is right now is I like to think of it's really similar to Pokemon, the way the formats are structured. So for anybody that doesn't play that game or has never looked into it, there is always a plethora of viable decks. Now there is a top 2 to 5 decks, but you can go to a regional event, and their regionals are like our YCSs, and do well with probably 15-ish decks. And I feel like that's where we are right now, kind of with Yu-Gi-Oh! And I like that, but I do like variety because that's what we're used to, right? Every couple of months we get a change up of the format and a new deck introduced that like really shakes things up, but we just haven't had that. And if we get rid of our Orcus or Striker and our Thunder Dragon, I honestly feel like we're going to revert to either just like 30 deck format where it's just you have no idea what you're playing against, or like we're going to go back to like 2016 format, like ABC, like, and then we'll have like Spiral invoked. Like, I know Spiral was in 2016. I'm not stupid, but you get what I'm saying. Like, it's just going to be this absurd like deck pool.
Well, that wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, but I see what you're getting at, because if you look at 2016, so it started off the only playable decks were like Blue Eyes, Metal Foe, and to an extent DDD, because it didn't have its resources at the time, or not resources, but it didn't have all of its support.
The structure deck.
But up until Zoot got released, right? You had Blue Eyes, ABC, Metal Foe, DDD, Water to an extent, Dark Lord, and like there were 6 playable decks. And I'm not saying that's bad by any stretch of the imagination, because having a more diverse format is better than having a very like. I like that better than a triangle format. The only thing I like better than those are tier 0 formats, because I personally enjoy tier 0 formats.
Yes, for the most part, I agree. Go ahead.
Yeah, but it's just like, if you do what people are saying and then like we just like axe off all these other decks, well, now you have to look at what we have available after that And like it's just like the power level of the other decks and the archetypes, like I said, they're super lackluster. They're not nearly as consistent as the other decks that we have in the format now. That being said, that could be good for some people because we're not getting stuck. Like, how do we put Orcus combo in this? Or how do we play around Thunderboard? Or how do we do this? You know what I mean? Like, it'd change the game, but I don't think it would fix what the problem is. And I don't know if you can't do like 2013 where you take away all these cards because like it's cool you take away these cards, but there's still like a whole pool of extenders that do the exact same thing as the ones that you just took away from us. Like, oh no, we lost Solemn Judgment. Well, here's this or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, I just think
I'll go ahead and finish your thought before I jump in.
I just think the game is to the point where it's so fast that you can't really change what's happening now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the game has developed to play a certain way, and you can't reset it at this point. My thought on this the whole game is the player base has no clue what they fucking want. Like they're just tired of seeing Striker, and they're tired of seeing Thunder, and they're tired of seeing Orcus. But like, then what? Like you want your favorite tier 2 deck, just like me, to be a viable option. And like, that's not going to happen 99% of the time. The game needs to progress, and there's nothing wrong like with a deck being viable for a year or 2 years. Like, it's not common in Yu-Gi-Oh! It's basically unheard of, but there is nothing wrong with that. I think if Konami wants to take the game in that direction where they are keeping these decks functional for a longer period of time. And like, I honestly don't mind that because I invested in these cards and I want them to be more than just pretty cardboard in my binder. Personally.
No, I feel you on that one. I mean, it's just like you said though, like, so way back, like people were just used to like decks getting rotated out every 6 months because we always got we got ban list twice a year.
Yeah, you like counted on it.
Yeah, you got you got a 6-month format twice a year. And then Konami changed it to where we got 4 ban lists within a year, and that actually kept the game pretty fresh. Because you still had the meta decks, and they got like little slaps on the wrist and stuff like that to power them down for new stuff to come in, such and such. And then we had this thing where there's no defined ban list, and they're only going to give us one when they think there's. And remember, we didn't have a list for like 10 months. That was actually like crazy. But people are just used to the format changing so much and Konami releasing sets that have like broken decks in them. Because I can remember like after 2014, we had like 2 lackluster core sets. I mean, they weren't lackluster, but they were compared to like Lord of the Tachyon Galaxy because there was Primal Origin, there was something of Lights. I like to say Judgment of Light, which was Jottle that had like Coach Soldier Wolfbark and all that fun stuff in it. And it was just like, they were cool, but they didn't have the same power level some of the less. And then Duelist Alliance came out after the ban list, and then we just went from having this whole like 12 deck format in 2014 to a triangle format between Shaddoll, Satellar, and BA.
Yeah, the new decks.
Like, that was the last time I can remember that there was a huge, like, big shift in the meta like that, just instantly. Because like it wasn't like it took like a month or 2 for these decks to get like themselves rotated into the format. No, that was the format.
Yeah, they came out and they're like, this is the deck to play.
Right, and we haven't had anything like that in a long time. Like, don't get me wrong, like, there was a shift in power, like, because remember, it was like Trickstar Sky Striker, or Trickstar, Altergeist.
Yeah, I'd say like, there's like 2 kind of comparable moments in the past 2 years to that, and that was when Zodiac was released, and then when Double Helix came out.
Yeah.
And like that's completely, that's taking a like a pool format where there's multiple decks to a tier 0 format almost. Like that's not healthy. That's not what we're going for. And right now I could see Konami like taking the game in a, not a different direction, but taking the way they want to develop core sets and release decks differently. And that's because there's an inevitable power ceiling on the game. You can only power creep a game that doesn't have set rotations so much before the cards just become like, I activate this card from my deck. Like, Like you're not. It's gonna be whoever goes first doesn't even draw a hand. Like you can only do so much, right? Like you have to be able to like level off the playing field, and instead of power creeping up, power creep horizontally. Like release decks that just perform better under certain formats or certain circumstances, and then decks will ebb and flow out of the format naturally. And I honestly would like to see that, but I would also like to see what the traditional format looked like if every single card was at one. So I have some retarded ass ideas. So what do I know?
This man wants to play. This man legitimately wants to play Highlander, and I'm actually kind of.
Let me clarify that. I know all the banned cards in traditional format are at one. I'm saying every card ever released, you can only play at one copy, aka it's a Highlander format, and it would be so much fun.
Highlander would be really cool, but then there's also like some really degenerate Highlander things I think about, because like you have cards like Last Turn, Painful Choice, and just like broken cards.
I think it would be better. We're getting a little off topic, but I think it would be better than the current shit show that is traditional format right now, where you have all these enablers at 3 and your power broken cards at 1. And you could just build around that. Like, it'd be a lot harder if every single card was at 1. You know what I mean?
I'd be broken. It'd still be broken.
Yeah, well, of course, but that's the nature of it's anime, the format, because nobody in the anime fucking plays more than one copy of any card at any time, because that would be stupid, except Kaiba, because he has 3 blue eyes.
Don't you fucking put my boy into this. But staying on topic,
bringing it back around, right?
From what you're saying, that sounds infinitely more fun than what we're doing now.
Yes,
because we're just beating the horse to death at this point. Because like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I like playing Thunder. I personally love that deck. I love everything it does. I love playing the Dragon Engine in it. Yada yada yada, so on and so forth. I can go on for days, but it's a problem deck. So is Orcus. So it's everything else in the format that does Wombo Combo, which every deck does Wombo Combo. Yeah. I'm sure we could figure out a way to make Guru control and to guard Dragon Guru, because, you know, it's Dragon.
Yeah,
and, you know,
Guru's Dragon.
We're not going to get into that. But like I said, I don't think there's enough you can do in one list or in a multitude of lists that fixes it to where we're at now.
Yeah.
I just think.
I was going to say, attacking your first point, or not attacking, but agreeing. The playing Thunder right now, you got bored, and that's like you want some variety, you want some change up, but the issue was there in the past 6 months there hasn't been a even semi-viable like deck release. Like, I'm not talking a Dark Saviors like Sky Striker or like Thunder Dragon again, but like there hasn't been a even somewhat contender released.
No, there's been
forever.
No decks.
And that is why I think the format is stale. Not because the current decks are still existing, but because there's nothing new introduced. And there's a big difference between those two, because if these get axed, like now I could play ABC, I could play Invoked, I could play Dino, but I don't want to, because those aren't decks I like. I'm playing Striker because I like that deck. Like, I could do well with Dino in this format. I just don't feel like it. And I want something new that interests me, not waifu the deck for fan service. Or like Mathmix seems pretty cool, but like, I don't know, it's not my play style. I don't really like think they have a like it's an OTK deck, right?
More or less. I mean, that's what it. But like, it's just like you said. There's no new tier 1 strategies. Like they're just not giving them to us. Like, they're giving us these cool cards that do cool things. But they can't compete, so that's why it's just getting more stale and stale and stale every single set that comes out. Like, what is it? We get the next set. We what's that archetype we're getting? I can't.
Adagnister.
Yeah, and I think that's supposed to be a tier 1. So we'll finally get something new to play.
I genuinely believe, I've been saying it for months, that that's going to be a tier 1 deck.
Right, but that's still only one deck in a format that's already polluted with X amount. Now, that deck could phase out some of the other strategies. We don't know until we actually get it. But until then, like, we're still stuck with the same problem.
Yeah, but okay, let's go back a little bit. If we do get that product, and I honestly don't really know how the deck plays But I know it's Cybers. It actually has good support in archetype support cards, and it's a Cybers deck. So, like in my head, there's no reason that deck shouldn't function. Let's say it has a insane Orcus matchup, and it just like Orcus can't function with that deck in the format. You'll see less Orcus and more of that. And let's say it's Sky Strikers like 50-50 and it's Thunders like 60-40. Like those two decks are still going to be relevant, but like it's Orcus matchups like 20-80. And like then Orcus falls out and then Adignister gets hit and then Orcus comes up a little bit. Like I think that's how the game should be. But again, we need new product with good decks for that to happen.
So it's not like an ideal situation, but I think that would be a step in the right direction for sure. But like, to be perfectly honest, I think we need a set like Duelist Alliance, which probably is never going to happen again. So it's probably wishful thinking, but we just need one of those sets that introduces 2 to 3 new archetypes that right off the bat can be a format contender.
Yes.
Like, they don't have to be the most overpowered. They don't have to be. They could be tier 1.5 decks. They don't have to be tier 1, but something that can compete in today's game with every other strategy in the meta. I think you're better off trying to fix the game that way than trying to put 1,000 different types of hindrances on everything else in the game. Now, like I said, that's probably wishful thinking on my part, which, you know, I'm entitled to that, I guess. But at the same time, what other option is there really?
Yeah, I mean, right away, like you can kill Orcus with 1 ban hit. You can kill Sky Striker with 1 ban hit, and you can I mean, if you leave it in its current state and just ban engage, it's dead. Thunder Dragon, you can kill it with 1 or 2 hits, but then like we just keep coming back to that. Like, what are you left with? Like, Konami needs to figure out what they're doing with the game. Link Reigns is coming to an end. They have a whole nother like anime like focus to build the game around. We don't know what that is yet. Maybe that's why they're like keeping these decks relevant and going more horizontal than just axing a deck and releasing a new one. We don't know. But would you say the game can be fixed right now with a ban list?
Absolutely not.
Okay, so January is a month away. What do you realistically think is going to happen?
If Konami goes by their same strategies, I think these decks get a little like they get toned down in power a little bit, but they're still strong enough that they're still going to phase every other deck out of the format that could be potentially be contender. Like, you still have other like rogue strategies like Hero or ABC at this point. ABC has to be a rogue deck at this point, let's be real.
Yeah.
And then other decks like those, like, they're still left in the rogue tier because those other decks still have too much going for them versus the other ones that have too much going against it. And it's just like, I don't, even if they did a hard reset, like, what could you hard reset at this point? Because, like, don't get me wrong, like, these decks are, like, good, but, like, if you look between them, not a lot of them have, like, the same things in common and stuff like that other than the hand traps that they play in the main deck. And I guess you could take away hand traps, but then, like, people are just going to play combo because, oh, hey, look, all the hand traps eventually are gone now. And that's like, okay, that didn't fix any problem at all. That just made it worse.
I only think the hard reset, like, ideology works when it's, there's 2 decks, right? Like Dragon Ruler Spellbook. That's the most commonly used example because it's pretty much one of the only times it happened. You got these 2 decks that their power level is just so much ahead of everything below them that they just get the fucking axe, like taken out, back, beaten with a baseball bat, and then shot in the kneecaps and burned, right? They just get obliterated. And then it just brings everything back down in line. But there's just like you were saying, there's absolutely no way we can do that right now. And like I'm honestly at a loss. I think these are going to be the best 3 decks outside of Adignister, which realistically could come in if these are checked enough. It could come in and just be the best deck of the format, like no hands, no question. But again, I don't really know what the deck does.
Only time will tell, but I don't know. It's kind of hard to see it at that kind of perspective of what you could do. I mean, you could take some cards off the list to make other decks like give them a buff and stuff like that. But I don't think there's enough that you could take off to buff specific strategies, especially with the hindrance of a lot of decks. Even though we have all these new generic link monsters and stuff like that we can use, there's still like too many decks that still can't function under Master Rule 4.
Yeah.
And the ones that they do have or can function under Master Rule 4, there's too many restrictions on their new support to allow them to flourish in Master Rule 4.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. So I'm not saying the Master Rule is a problem, but it is a hindrance to a lot of older strategies that could have cards come off the list that would make them better and more playable today.
Well, I'm optimistic on the game. Like, I like to think Konami has the players' interests at heart, but being realistic, the bottom line is financial gain for the company. And bringing back old decks outside of like a wave of new support that's going to sell a product does nothing for the company. So yeah, they might give us like little nibbles here and there for old decks, like to keep the older player base like happy, but I don't think they will ever realistically reach back into the ban list to grab out a deck so it can be tier 1 outside of product release. And with that being said, I don't think that's really going to like outside of unbanning just like the insane cards that you can think of. I don't even think that would even remotely fix the problem unless they just went back to like judgment judgment level unbans, you know.
See, Konami did that several years ago when they unreleased Snatch Deal, and we saw how that worked out.
Yeah, but it was a power card, not an archetype card.
Yeah, no, but like it was still insane.
Yeah, top deck Snatch Steal in that format.
I still have nightmares of what Snatch Steal did, but any day, yeah.
Like that would be like unbanning Vanities or unbanning Soul Charge, right? It's just like, really, he had the one of.
The Soul Charge is insane.
The Soul Charge should absolutely never be legal ever again. Unless it says this is the only card effect you can activate and resolve this turn after an errata.
They allowed way too much, way too fast, way too soon.
Yeah. All right. So is the game broken? In my opinion, no. Can we fix it? Given Konami's current design philosophy that the public has come to accept, like, no, I think we're just going to have to fucking shut up in color for a little while. But if they did adjust their design philosophy and just haven't like fully implemented it yet, which is a possibility, like when was the last time a deck has been alive as long as Sky Striker?
Zoo
was not even close to that.
Bro, Zoo was a lot.
Zoo got axed at the end of 2017, or was it the very beginning of 2018?
Also, what was the other one?
That was 11 months Zoo was legal, I think. And Sky Striker was going on 18 months, 19 months.
Bro, BA's been going strong since 2014. I don't want to hear it.
Yes, but I think Konami's going to take that idea, like what the player base is doing with BA, and like try to keep decks power level at that like tier 2-ish, just like hopefully forever. Like that would be amazing, right? Bro,
I'm just saying that engine was tier 1 for 2 years straight. You had the 2015 Nationals that had won, and then you had the 2016 Nationals where it almost won again. But I got edged out by Monarch.
Oh man. So I mean, we could go back and forth on this all day. Like, what should they do? What are they going to do? What would we like them to do? It's always the same fucking 3 questions every time a ban list comes up. What I want them to do and what they're going to do is not the same. What you want them to do and what they're going to do is not the same. Like, this company is so large and it has such a outspoken, like, vocal minority that the people you talk to, no one's ever going to be happy. The people that want to tell you their opinion, they will never be happy because they're just like, I want the game to be better. That's why I bitch nonstop, right? When you care about a game and you really want to see it succeed, you want to point out the faults so they cannot exist anymore, right? That's fucking makes sense to me, right?
That's the idea.
So like, what do we do? Do we just sit here and keep activating engage and ray effect, like, or do we try to play rogue? Like, I'm at a loss, like, because like I've been playing Demise Striker for 2 weeks now, and it's fun.
We never stop resolving engage. All right, we just don't stop.
All right, engage to 2, Widow Anchor to 2.
I'm still resolving it 4 times a turn.
Yeah,
I don't care what anyone says.
If you haven't played Striker since the list, like, I just resolved engage. It was 5 times. Was it 5? I had one set off multi-roll. I Kagari'd one back, and 4 times because I couldn't, because the other one was banished. So I resolved engage 4 times in one turn after resolving Demise the previous turn, all for draws. Like, the deck is just fucking nuts when it works.
I have owned Striker since the day of release, and I have yet to touch it.
Yeah, I know.
However, Thunder, on the other hand, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you can click on any fucking YouTube video out there, and people are going to bitch about Striker, people are going to bitch about Orcus, and people are going to bitch about Thunder, but you still have, like, the decks winning regionals that aren't any of those 3. You still have the top 8s in regionals. You still have the 30% that has nothing to do with these decks in the top cut of YCS. Is like, the format is healthy. People are just bored, and they don't know, do they want these decks to die? Do they want new decks to be released? The player base doesn't know what they want. I don't know what the fuck I want.
I know what we need. I know. I have a perfect solution.
What's that?
Every single player in the game just has to have the Johnny Nugent mindset. I'm tired of playing meta. Let's just play rogue. We'll all play rogue.
Yeah, and that's great. But, I mean, you do got to go to, like, Tulsa, where there's, like, 80 players or whatever.
I refuse to go anywhere near Oklahoma and hang out with my boy Johnny, so that's never going to happen. But if we all had the same mindset throughout our country and the world.
Yo, could you imagine if every single person at Rosemont, like a capped out Rosemont event, 500 people, they're like, no, fuck meta, I'm playing Destiny board Mystic Mine.
We all just took a break from the meta, and there's 500 players, 500 rogue decks.
Oh my god, that would be fucking amazing. I would love to see that event. Just like the reactions on people's faces, like, oh man, it would be fun. But we got about a minute and a half left. Joe, you got any final thoughts? On the actual topic, not about Doug.
All right. Well, I mean, when you put it that way. I don't think Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a lost cause, but I do think the current situation is not solvable unless we have, like, more stuff put into the game. Like, actual playable decks. You give me another, like, half a Time Thief deck, and I'm going to be really fucking pissed. Like, that deck was a good start, and they're just like, nah, we're not going to finish it. I was like,
here's a Redoer and like Wind Up Rabbit that can summon effect monsters.
And that's it. Have fun. Well, those are my thoughts.
All right. So my thoughts are, I still love the game. I'm just, I'm bored of the format, but I'm not bored of the decks. I want new product introduced, and I would really like to see Konami keep these decks pretty much around at a playable status rather than just axing them like my Zodiac Trident, Broad Bull, and Rat Pier. I'm never not going to be salty about that. But that has been episode 39 of Extra Drop. Please check us out every week, Monday at 8 a.m. on iTunes and Google Play, and 10 a.m. on YouTube. Joe, any last comments?
Douglas French has no sauce.
Piccolo, you have no sauce. No. Hey.
Guys, it has been fun. I really enjoyed this episode. If you want content similar to this, please check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/The Duel Factory and youtube.com/Bingo HD. If there is a topic you want to see us discuss or debate about, please let us know on one of our channels with a comment, because that is really the only way we can communicate with anybody watching this podcast. But with that being said, peace out. See you next week.
Okay, bye.